What? Oh, it's sideways. Hello, family and friends. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Jackson Galaxy video blog. My name is Jackson Galaxy. This is my cat, Nilla. Nilla Wafer. I call her Nilla Bean. Sometimes I call her Frappuccino. I'm going to talk about my experiences with this game. Top 10 games you can play in your head by yourself. I just finished recording a video where I was sort of talking about my experiences with ADHD and trying to attempt to use this book as like a gaming engine, as it so says on the back. Your mind is the ultimate gaming engine. I'm actually reading that in reverse because my camera is flipped. But so this is my experience. If you are at all interested in this book, you can find it on Amazon for $20. It's super easy to find. It's released by Corridor Digital. You can see their little logo down there at the bottom, which I love those guys. They're great. If you want to support them, pick up their book. If you want to play the top 10 games in your head by yourself, you should also pick up the book. If you are at all interested in this book, I highly recommend that you go through it yourself first, before watching this video. So click away from this video if you haven't done that yet. So I'm going to share with you my adventure, which is the first module in this book. So here we go. First, a little background knowledge. If you haven't watched the video that I just finished recording, where I talk about my experiences with ADHD and trying to go through the modules in this book with ADHD, basically the weird thing for me is that before you even get to the part in the book where it's like, okay, now, close your eyes and start your adventure, whatever, after it gives you all these prompts, to me, the stories are basically already always finished by the time I get to that point. But they're still interesting enough that I'm sort of excited to share it with you. So get the book, go through it yourself, go on your own adventure, then come back to this video after you've done that. And, we can just, it's like one of those things that's like a TV show or a good video game where there's lots of different options or interpretations and stuff. And so when you talk to people about it, it's fun and interesting to see just how different other people's minds work. But so here's my adventure. My protagonist, my main character, because I think in terms of movie writing and visual storytelling, even though I still don't really do that anymore. His name is Theo Katzman, and he was born probably in the 1920s sometime. As a younger boy, would be plagued by horrible nightmares of not demons, but one specific demon whose name I can't remember. Kandros. The demon's name was Kandros. Kandross. Kandros. Dang it. I should have written it down. There's a notes section in the back of the book for you to write down your notes. I should have utilized that because I can't remember the demon's name now, but it's one specific demon basically tormenting Theo Katzman ever since he was a little child. He goes and visits an old family manor as a kid, and many of the artifacts inside the manor literally speak to him as this tormentor through this demon. I really wish I could remember his name. That's gonna irritate me forever. Oh well. So through that, part of the family basically, some uncle or somebody, whoever owns the manor that he's basically walking around in. Why are you not focusing? Maybe something. I don't know. Walking around this manor, objects in the manor, basically allow this demon to torment this child, and it is discovered that he basically has the power to exorcise this demon and basically ends up working specifically as a something of like an assassin for the Catholic Church. Secret, whoa, super secretive group of assassins inside the Catholic Church recruit this kid to basically become like a priest and train him up in different forms of like martial combat, and there's a definite use of like rapier pistol kind of combo. Definitely inspired by Victor Saltzpyre of the Warhammer universe, if you're familiar with that at all. So yeah, very, very priestly, very paladin-y, very, churchy, very uninteresting in a lot of ways as a character because he doesn't change or develop much. He basically is determined to find this demon and not just like banish it, but slay it completely. And that leads him many years later, after basically years of working as a professional like demon slayer assassin for this like underground church cultist organization thing, finds himself as a much older man, probably in his 50s, mid 50s, maybe approaching 60. He's kind of a bit of an older guy. Ends up finally tracking down this demon, and it turns out that he is in Egypt, right? Ancient Egypt, Cairo. So it's sometime after World War II. The game prompts that it's like in the 40s, but my dude would only be like 20. So like, I don't know. Math doesn't work out. It's not important. It's 56 in the 40s. That's what matters. So like, there's other like, Nazi, very much in the realm of like Captain America and the Hail Hydra, Red Skull type people running around, also looking for like these demons to either try and get their power or to utilize them. So like, basically at this point, nothing original in the story, right? It's all just pieces and even the name Theo Katzman is a guitarist and a vocalist on YouTube. I just like that name, and I think it is cool applied in this case to this character who's basically just Victor Saltzpyre from Warhammer in freaking Captain America and the Hydra, like 1940s, Indiana Jones, and the Mummy, just all wrapped up. The only thing that really becomes interesting, so like, that's all basically the stuff that I came up with reading the prompts in the book. And they say like, here's some options, here's some examples, here's some stuff, come up with your own ideas. None of those ideas are mine. Not interesting to me, at least in that way. But so the part that was interesting is that how my ADHD brain basically can't continue the story unless I have something specific to hold on to. So basically at that point, the character lands, gets off an airplane, meets his contact that's like going to take him through this dungeon, essentially, that turns out is like buried underneath one of the pyramids, and he goes through this dungeon and confronts the demon and whatever. And that's basically all the prep work that's done in the book. And so like, by the time I got to the part in the prompts and things where it was like, you built your character, you've got your story, you've got your backstory, you've got like your intent and your, what the character wants and why they can't get it and that kind of thing, that's like makes for good and compelling storytelling. And now it's go in the story. And at that point, my brain was just like, he meets the demon and in this like dark, dingy chamber underneath this under the pyramid, and it's like essentially confronts the demon says like, you know, clearly you're not the first person to come here, but like I'm sealed in this chamber, and so now you have the choice. You can either like let me out, like initially, you can let me possess you and then let me out like later, or you can shut the door behind you and live out the rest of your life with me, but I'm not able to get out, more or less. So the dude, you know, is full in his conviction, without hesitating, shuts the door and seals himself in the room with the demon, and, you know, is immediately slaughtered by the demon and killed. But now the demon is trapped there until he's able to like muster up enough power to like torment some other kid and then try and get him to come down and open the door. And like that was kind of cool, but like all of that happened instantly. The second it was like now you begin your adventure and your adventure is over. Like that's the total amount of time. So like, how long is this video? I don't have my glasses on. 11 minutes. So the 11 minutes that I spent explaining my entire story and the characters, the build up and everything was less time than it actually took me to read through the book and do the adventure in my head. This video was longer than that took by like several minutes. And that was weird to me. That was one of the weirdest experiences of trying to go through this book with ADHD, is just that like every time I try and do something, it's almost like it would be better as a writing prompt. If I had something to go back to and like look at and like concretely put down in words in a way that makes sense, meaning you have to think about it and mull over it and get it to a point where it feels solid and concrete. Once it gets to that point, like then I could probably continue on and like flesh out the story and do a lot more of like interesting stuff. But as far as the titular process of the book being the top 10 games that you can play in your head by yourself, I couldn't do it technically by myself because I would need something to write on and something to like bounce ideas off of. And I also am apparently incapable of actually playing the game in my own head. So I don't know. It's a really interesting book. I highly recommend anybody, if you're at all interested in it. You know, it's only $20 on Amazon, and it makes for a great conversation thing. And it really doesn't take all that long to like read or get into. But I was really sort of, I guess I had expectations that came from nowhere. So they're essentially false expectations about the book, right? Like I was hoping to be able to read the prompts and like get the rules for each game, get them going in my head, get some ideas going, and then just like effectively just like veg out and like trip balls for an hour in my own head and just sit there and like, you know, go through this process. But that isn't even a little bit what my experience with the book has been like. It's basically just like, you know, by the it's the book feels a lot like a runway. It feels a lot like you know, go the first milestone and then the next milestone and the next milestone, building these little things, building this runway and gaining speed as you go. And then once you get to a point, you're supposed to take off. And as soon as you get to the point where you're supposed to take off, to me, it was already over. Like all of the prep work was done, and then the story was finished the second I was supposed to begin. And that was a very strange experience. But that was my experience with the book. And that was my adventure. So was it at all interesting to you? Because I don't really know what to think about it, to be honest. It was a strange experience, but an experience that I'd never really had. So a new experience, which is always nice. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful time, and I will see you whenever I see you next. Bye-bye.